Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office. Mike, did you make an announcement?
No, I haven't made an announcement.
I'll let you do that first.
Okay, we're not going to be taking questions right after this, but we'll try to give you as much information. And also, the charging documents have just gone out, so you should have that. I need to also remind everyone that charges are only accusations, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until the defendant is either found guilty or pleads guilty.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manser. All right, I want to take a few minutes to introduce everybody at this podium with me. And I also want to thank all of them for taking time out of their day to be here for this. This is an important announcement for us. Of course, Chief Graves is here with us with the KCPD. I think with her is Sergeant Maurice Otis and some other members of her team that have worked on this case. So thank you to those who are standing behind the cameras for the work that you did on this case. Julie Donnellan is here with MOCSA. Chris Wade is here. She is a community advocate with the Justice Project. Donna Shoemate is our Deputy Director of Combat. This side of this podium represents services that are offered to these types of individuals that are the subject of this complaint today. So we want to make sure where reporting can happen and where services can occur. And then, of course, someone that is not here that just was out of town today is Justice Gatson. She's with the Real Justice Network and also an important advocate for victims in our community. And then, of course, Jill Eisenhower. She is the chief of my Special Victims Unit and lead prosecutor on this case, along with Harrison Blue, who's an assistant prosecutor in this office. And I am grateful for all of them and the work that they've done over time on this case. Okay, so let's get right to it. Today, I am announcing 20 felony counts were filed against Dairon, I'm not sure I'm saying his first name correctly, Riley, for attacks upon women in this community. This defendant is now in custody of the Jackson County Detention Center on a $1.5 million bond, cash only. These attacks took place between the months of May of 2023 and June of 2023. Now, we recognize how very difficult it is, and sometimes, frankly, how rare it is that victims of sex assault are willing to make a report. We'd like to change that today. Certainly, I'd like the power that stands behind this podium to help support victims and tell them we're here for them. This is your courthouse, actually. That's who it belongs to, nobody else. And that we'd like to hear what they have to tell us. So there's lots of ways to report crime that has occurred to them, and we just want to give them as many outlets as possible to report that harm. They may have additional information to provide us on this particular case, on this defendant, or others. And our doors are open, our phones are ready, and we would really like to hear from them. Now, I want to get into the actual charges in this case because there are 20. I'm going to try and put them aligned with each case so you know which ones belong to which individual. But my primary goal is to provide anonymity to the victims that are in this case. That while this courthouse is open to them, this courthouse also wants to protect them. So that's very critical of how we conduct ourselves and how we do business here. So that's why there'll be a limited amount of information that can be given, but frankly should be given because we're talking about crimes that are of a very personal nature. Now I'm going to start on the timeline of June 17th, 2023 and work my way back. Kansas City Police were dispatched on June the 17th to the Quick Trip on Westport Road, and they were reporting there because of a robbery that occurred. They made contact with a victim who had also reported that she had been sexually assaulted. She had red marks on her wrist, and she met the defendant on a dating app. That victim then drove the defendant to a wooded area, and that's where he pointed a knife at her, ordered her into the back seat. He then points a gun at her and threatens to kill her. He raped her in the back seat of that vehicle. He robbed her of her phone and her money. He tied her wrist with a shoestring. And for those crimes that I just sort of outlaid for you, I want to go ahead and tell you what those charges are. Counts 1 and 2 are the unlawful use of a weapon for exhibiting. Those carry a range of punishment for up to 4 years in prison. 1 is for the use of a knife, and 1 is for the use of a gun. Count 3 is robbery in the first degree. That is a Class A felony, and that is for forcibly stealing her cell phone and cash. There is a Count 4, an armed criminal action to go with that charge. Count 5 is a rape in the first degree. Count 6 is an assault 4th degree. Count 7 is a kidnapping. Count 8 is a sodomy in the first degree, and Count 9 is another count of rape in the first degree. Now, the rape and sodomy charges here are all first degrees, so those are unclassed felonies, but they carry up to life in prison. Now I'm going to move to May the 23rd of 2023. A different victim in our city reported to police, Kansas City Police, that she had met the defendant in this case through an escort dating service, and they went to the area of 89th Terrace. He got into her vehicle. He quickly demanded her phone, of which she refused to give over, and then he punched her. He climbed on top of her, tied her hands with a phone charging cord, and then the defendant also took a gun that she had in her purse. He also had a knife and a taser with him, and he raped her in the back seat of that car, and again, he raped her outside of the vehicle. For those crimes, that starts with count 10 in the charging documents that you have been provided. The first charge for that victim is an assault in the 4th degree for punching that victim. Kidnapping, count 11, that's a Class B felony. Count 12, robbery in the first degree, that's a Class A felony for stealing her cell phone. And count 17 is a rape in the first degree. Again, that's an unclassed felony that carries a range of punishment up to life in prison. Finally, working our way back on the timeline to May 17th of 2023, Kansas City Police again were dispatched to the area of 89th Street. A third victim reported that she had met the defendant on a website for adults. He met her and he pulled a knife on her. He also took up to $300 in cash from her taser, as well as her phone. Now, the charges for that particular victim are as follows, beginning with count 18, the unlawful use of a weapon for exhibiting the knife. Count 19, robbery in the first degree, a Class A felony, and count 20, an armed criminal action charge. As I said earlier, this defendant remains in custody on a $500,000 bond in the Jackson County Detention Center. And we'll move through this case as quickly as we can to get to an appropriate disposition in the case. We have a long road ahead, but I really employ your listeners that we want to hear from them. We want to hear from them. We want to know what they know. We want reports of harm that they may know of that's happened to them, to friends, to family members. It's very important to us that we have as full knowledge as possible so that we can move forward in the best possible footing that we can, and that we obtain justice not for just these 3 victims, but for anybody else who may still be out there. Now, I want to offer my podium here for a couple other advocates to talk about the kind of services that their agencies can provide and how reporting can happen to them. So I'll start with Julie Donnellan with MOCSA.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today to cover this really important news. MOCSA is the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault. It is the rape crisis center that serves the greater Kansas City metro area. MOCSA is here to support survivors, to believe survivors, and to help them, assist them, and advocate for them in any way that they need to in order to heal. We are a free and confidential service. While we work with law enforcement and the prosecutors at times, if that's what a survivor chooses, we are not part of the prosecutor's office or law enforcement. So if there is a survivor out there who is uncertain about whether or not they want to report at this time, they can reach out through our 24-hour hotline. That's 816-531-0233, and that can be found on our website, MOCSA, MOCSA.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And then, Chris Way, would you like to provide information about your organization?
Yeah, I'm here from the Justice Project, Kansas City, and we work with women and girls who are out in the streets. And we also are now taking LGBTQI clients because some of the other organizations that serve that population have closed. So I want to encourage anyone. We provide court advocacy, victim advocacy, peer support. We are a survivor organization. We have been sexually assaulted. We've been in domestic violence situations. We have been sexually exploited. And some of us have even risen to the level of human trafficking. We work with anyone who has been involved in any of those things, and we would encourage them to either call or text us at 816-769-3307. And while we understand that we are vehemently hoping that all the perpetrators out there who are conducting crimes of this nature can be apprehended, but also prosecution can't always be completed. And in spite of that, we will stick with people who have been victimized. We coordinate with other organizations like MOCSA, and we will see them through to the bitter end as long as they feel they want to be involved with us.
And then, Chief, I wanted to see if you wanted to offer some comments.
I do have a couple comments. I have some messages. I want to thank the victims that are involved in this case. I want to thank them for their courage for coming forward and reporting this to police so that we can stand here today and let others know that the suspect is in custody. I also want to thank our partners, specifically MOCSA, that work with our detectives in these sensitive cases that are difficult to sometimes to get to the point where we are today. They're just so sensitive. And then I want to thank our detectives. Our detectives are really dedicated to this sensitive type of crime, and I appreciate all that you do. I know that you work in these such sensitive spaces with our victims and encourage them to report so we can make Kansas City safer. And because of the work with our detectives and our partners in Jackson County, we're here today. And we do feel and believe that there are possibly other victims out there. There is a Seek Then Speak app that we encourage others to look at, familiarize themselves with. It's just another tool that we can use to help bring these types of cases to the police department and get the resolution like we have here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, thank you to all our partners. That includes, of course, the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, where I couldn't stand here without them. So I'm very grateful for their service and their dedication to get us to this point. And Combat, of course, as well. Combat funds a lot of the organizations that you see here so that services can be provided in the community free of charge to victims who need that service. All right, well, I see you. Okay,
Sorry.
We'll try. Let's see.
Victims that we know of, correct?
Yep.
Okay. What tied them all together?
Well, I think the defendant himself is the tie. There's several similarities, but I'll just leave it at that.
So they knew his name in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, ma'am, did you say $1.5 million bond or $500,000 bond?
Half.
Half.
Yeah.
Thank you.
$500,000 cash. Okay. Again, I know it's unusual. I usually take whatever you have to throw at me at these podiums, and I do believe that's my job. But my job is also to protect victims, and it's just critically important to me that we do that. So respectfully, we're gonna head out. If you want to get more information though from some of our partners here that provide service, I'm just offering them up. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you. Have a good afternoon.